Yeah, that's not gonna work. It's better. Wow, okay. Oh, hi, everybody. Did not warm up. It's okay. Hi, thank you for that wonderful, wonderful introduction, Lisa. I brought notes because I am no historian, and I was too nervous that I would forget some things while I talk about Juneteenth for everyone here. So, I am just unbelievably thrilled to be here to support Lisa, and personally, as a witch, I'm thrilled to have another deck to add to my divination altar, so thank you for that. As my mother's best friend, I have been lucky enough to know Lisa my entire life. Throughout my 28 years on this earth, she has been a divine presence who has poured her life's work into resurrecting the divine feminine in numerous women, from maiden to crone. For those of you who don't know, Lisa's process is both deeply personal and deeply collaborative. With each woman she photographs, she sets them the assignment of researching their goddess, their cultural origins, and writing some sisterly wisdom on why our deity of choice resonates with us. I know, so much homework! Gosh! But it is a gift to be able to sit with yourself and ask, who am I? What does this goddess bring out that is innately within me? And what can she unlock? This contemplation allows for a richer connection between woman and goddess, and we can find that power and call upon it when we are facing the harsh realities of our daily lives. In my ancestral land of Haiti, spirituality is anchored in the water, and it is a vast body of water that personifies the passage of a soul from life to the afterlife through the gates of Guinea and reconnects us with our ancestors. It is in these waters that Mami Wata lies. That one. I did not know it was going to be there, but the blue. She is a multifaceted goddess who understands that everything has an equal and opposite reaction. Mami Wata is a creator and a destroyer. People thank her for their good fortune and blame her for taking their loved ones away. Just like your intuition, she is always there, underneath the surface, fluid in her intentions and capabilities. Her name was regularly invoked to strengthen the determination and resolve of those enslaved for centuries, and people prayed to her for freedom, both spiritually and physically. As a mixed woman whose ancestors were both slave and master, Mami Wata felt like the perfect goddess to channel the contradictions I feel within myself, especially in a world that constantly tries to reduce women of color to one quality. To embody Mami Wata is to be the architect of your own reality, which is the ultimate liberation. Which is why it's kind of a fitting goddess to talk about during Juneteenth. For those of you who don't know, Juneteenth is a celebration of the day in 1865 when Union Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and directed the federal troops to ensure that all enslaved people were freed over 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was enacted. So for 2 years, people in Galveston were working unpaid and had no idea that they were actually free. So it was a big deal. And while today is a day of celebration of the resilience of the Black community, it should also be a day of sober reflection. The path to freedom was not and is not linear. And while the Emancipation Proclamation freed slaves in Confederate states, many stayed in bondage in the bordering Union states of Delaware, Kentucky, Maryland, and Missouri. Even after the 13th and 14th Amendments were ratified, formerly enslaved people still had no wealth, no property, and a resentful white supremacist nation against them. The struggle for freedom morphed into a struggle for economic independence, and any step forward resulted in a retaliatory policy step backwards. From discriminatory housing policies to mass incarceration to aberrant police brutality, our Black brothers and sisters are still fighting for the right to thrive. And while our Congress just solidified Juneteenth as a national holiday, it is still illegal to teach about in 15 states because it is critical race theory. I say all this not to put a damper on the day, but to remind us that the history we are and were taught in school was written by the victors, and as such, it does not take into account the perspective of the oppressed. While this country claims to be the land of the free, there are still so many that need to be brave in order to live where liberty is not equitable. And speaking of liberty, let's talk about the goddess that resides in New York Harbor, the Statue of Liberty. So in 1865, I just learned this recently, Frederick Bartholdi and Edouard de la Boulaye were abolitionists who intended to gift the Statue of Liberty to the United States to commemorate the end of slavery. Most people don't know this, but Bartholdi's initial design had her holding broken chains in her left hand, with more chains trailing at her feet. The American decision makers rebuffed that idea and refused to commission the statue with that messaging so visible, and it did not come to the States until 1880s. However, a book replaced her shackles, but undeterred, Bartholdi left the broken shackles on her feet, with the chains trailing out of her dress. To this day, the chains can only be seen from an aerial shot above. And so the scope of her reality goes unknown. And by leaving the chains in this position, Bartholdi points out the hypocrisy of American exceptionalism. It's a country that preaches greatness and liberty, but refuses to reckon with the truth of whose backs this greatness was built upon. And while Emma Lazarus' sonnet, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free," speaks to the promise of the American dream, W.E.B. Du Bois wrote that he was unable to imagine the same sense of hope he assumed some immigrant arrivals had felt. This hope did not pertain to his race. But today, we can glean some hope from one of our brightest goddesses currently living in this country, Amanda Gorman, who brilliantly said, "Being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it." So as we continue to celebrate our goddess selves with pride under the summer solstice, almost sun, I encourage you to ask yourselves, how are you going to help repair it? Let's celebrate Juneteenth conscientiously by doing our part to ensure that this inaugural national holiday does not turn into a day of appropriation, but one of thoughtful conversation. Just as the goddesses exhibited in this oracle deck are diverse ideologically, spiritually, and culturally, so is the Black experience. Amplify the work of Black creators and leaders, invest in political movements that work towards liberating the marginalized, and consume Black art that is not steeped in trauma. While humanity is full of contradictions, I have hope that we can make this earthly plane a space for all of us to have equal opportunity to liberate our souls and express our multifaceted divinity free from oppression. Mami Wata would want that for all of us.